and let me share my screen. Okay. So can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. So today we will talk about local storage, how that can be useful for your application, and you will use it for some exercises and for mini apps, let's say. We'll talk about what is JSON and how to work with it. We also, in the end, after that, we will try to build a to-do app together. So you'll help me with JavaScript, and so for to-do app, we want to add, set complete. So yeah, basically add new task, toggle complete status, remove task. This might be an extra bit, but we will see. I probably will not have enough time for that, but we will start from these 4 things. So yeah. Okay, let's start actually from the very beginning. So to-do list is kind of hello world for front end. So you might find in the internet that a lot of tutorials starts from to-do list, because like a basic way of manipulate some UI, and you learn how to add element to the DOM, how to remove element from the DOM, and how to change or toggle some properties or attributes with this element. And yeah, so we will do an extra thing, which is local storage. So we will store our tasks, which means that you can, when you reload the page, you will still have this data, all like completed tasks, etc. So you will not lose it. But let's start step by step. So what is local storage? So local storage is a part of your browser, and you can store your data on the page, and that will be cached. And if we go anywhere, inspect. So if you try, you can find your local storage. It's just an object, which is a part of the browser and of the DOM, let's say. So here you can see that we have 3 properties: grid size data v1 and length and utab data, and all of them are strings. In different websites, you have different local storage data. So if you go to Google, look for local storage, and we have more stuff. So it depends on the website, right? And how it managed its data. And it helps you as a user, it helps you to persist, to have the persistent data on the website. So let's say when you log in to the any website, you might send the data with your credentials and get the data as a valid, let's say valid access key, and you will store it in local storage. That will have like an expiration date, let's say timestamp, but it will expire. So sometimes you might notice that some websites like banking apps, they have like a notification that your session will be finished in like 15 seconds. Please click yes to continue or something. So that might be based on local storage. You can use local storage for that. So when let's say when you land in on any page on the website, and you will have some data in your local storage, like a key and the timestamp, you send in this data there to the server. Server will check will validate your key, check when it should expire, and if it time passed, you just it will return you and log you out. So this is kind of how you might do security and maintain login state for users. So I'll show you how to get data from local state, how to local storage, how to set data to local storage. So it is domain specific, and you can't have the same local storage in different websites. So if you create on the specific domain, You can't go, and I just showed you that on one page you have one local storage, on another page you have another local storage. So it's domain specific. It has a limited amount of storage. To be honest, I don't even remember the size. Local storage size limitation. Yeah, between 2 and 10 megs, which is it's still a lot, but it still has a limit. And you can store your data only as a string. So you can't set as an object or array or number. It should be a string, and you will parse it, and I'll show you how to do that, but it always will be a string. And again, if you go to our Google example, I inspect and go to my console, local storage. As you can see, we have an object, but all values here are strings. All of that is a string, right? So, okay, let's go back. So key value pairs, because this is just a regular object. I mean, it looks like regular object. It has some limitations, but it's just an object. So you have key value pairs. So yeah, downside, doesn't work on files loaded in browser. So you can't actually just open. You know, when you can, without server, you can open your index.html. It will not work. So let me show you an example. So if I create my index.html, right? And hello. Let me just open terminal as well. So open index.html. So we have our page. And if I try to get local storage, so we have nothing, but I can't set anything like, I don't know, name equals local storage. What the heck? Shouldn't be able to use it. I'm pretty sure that what's going on? What's going on? That is why you need to have a server. Right, sorry. I might be wrong with no. That is why we use serve, because you need to have a local storage. That's interesting. I'm pretty sure it didn't work. So window local storage. Let's actually check, but yeah. This is really old. Okay.
Sorry, what was that? It shouldn't be storing the DOM, is it?
Yeah, exactly. So you don't have a local storage just for the file.
I see.
You need to run as a server, so you will be able to have local server. Why it is working? That might be actually some latest changes from Chrome, because with previous cohort, it didn't work, and I don't use it like on my work, at work, the local storage. So I'm not like every day, I'm not tracking the changes, but that looks weird. Local storage, files without server. Stop using local storage. Upload local file. This is really old. Okay, anyway, I'll check it later. But normally, what you will do is that you need to install any server, any way that will imitate your local host. And the default, like a lot of people use serve, because it's just very simple. So if you run, this is really odd. I'm kind of confused about this one. So npm init -y, so answer yes to all questions. And now we have npm install serve. Serve is not a magic again, it's just an npm package. So npm serve, and if you want to know how to use it, you just go to npm website, to the serve page, and here you can see how you can use it. You just use serve basically, and that will run local server in this folder. So serve, beautiful, npm run serve, beautiful. Let's check it. Everything goes wrong, right? Today. How much can be changed in a month? So, yeah, serve. Oh, right. Maybe it's complaining about that it's not global. Let me check. Yeah, that might be it. Sudo. Really, 1 month, so many changes. So we have now serve. Yeah, now it is working. So as you can see, it generated and serving your index HTML in the localhost 5000. So if I go here, I have my hello, and now I'm supposed to have my local storage. So local storage again, and local storage. I don't know, name. Yep. Come on. What's going on? Name. Tom. Yeah, so this is how it's supposed to be. So now you have your name Tom here. And if you reload, so if I reload, I still have my local storage here. This is odd, so I'm not hosting it, but it is working. There's definitely some very recent changes. Yeah, anyway, normally you want to have, you need to have a server. So you want to run your files in a server to be able to work with local storage. I will check it for you later. Is it just a recent changes from Chrome? Actually, let me check it in Safari.
Do you know if there's any difference between the live server and this server?
This is the same. You mean live server, the package?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same, similar packages. Doesn't matter. That's what I'm saying, that
So,
you can use any other.
so the local storage should work for the live server as well.
Yeah, so all you need to is to serve as a server. You want to serve your index as a server, so you want to have any host. It shouldn't be just opened in the browser as we had here, right? So I just opened in the browser. It should be served in some local host. It can be 3000 or any other package you can use to host it as a local server. Yeah, it will work anyway. Let me actually, yeah, so where I started, I want to check inspect element. That might be it might be here as well because it is the same engine. They use the same engine, but let me check local storage. Key function set. Okay. I'm definitely missing something. Something changed. Yeah, I'll check that because I'm really confused why it is working. Anyway, yeah, so run the server, and to get it, this is a window property. So you have a window object, right? So if you go to any page, you have window, and you have a lot of properties. Again, this is object, and you have a lot of properties, and some event listeners, etc. Hundreds of them, right? And all you need to do is to set, you have a few options. So you can have set item, use set item, and get item. So let's say that we have our, you can do window.local storage, or you can have just local storage. It doesn't matter, you can do both. Browser will understand that. So again, you can do local storage get item, and you will need to pass name of your property. So in our case, name, because we have Tom, and we will get a value. Or you can just do as a regular object, just name. You'll have the same. And the same for setting. You can have local storage dot set item, and you need to provide key. I don't know, age, and you want to provide the value. Let's say 28. So, and you can use again. So let's say age. As you can see, it's stored as a string. So it converted our number to a string, right? And you can use to set value local storage, just dot, I don't know, height without set item. That might be easier for me. I think that it's much nicer because you just accessing to that property just as a regular object. So and height, let's say 180. So now local storage dot height, almost height. You have 180, right? And if you go to local storage, you can see that everything converted to strings, right? Length is a number because this is like a global property. So it's not related to what you're setting, because length is 1, 2, and your name 3. If you add one more, you'll get 4. So this is, we have like basically 2 ways of setting them. So set item, get item, but I think that you can just use as a property, as a key of the object to select. It's much easier. Yeah, so here's the examples, right? So we have set item, you have a username, and you set in a user. And to get it, again, you can save it like username, window, local storage, get item, and this one, right? And username equals to username to super user 66 will be true. Ooh, sorry. So the benefit of that if I refresh my page many times and go to local storage, I have all this data, so it persists. I need to go to application, and we have storage, clear site data. Go back to console, and if I run my local storage again, we have nothing, right? So if you want to clear your storage, you go to applications, clear storage, and click just clear site data.
Would those hard refresh or hard something like that clear the cache, would that work as well or not?
Let's try. Because hard refresh is kind of the browser feature, so depends on how it works for them. So let's say height equals 180. So you want to this one, right? Empty cache and hard reload.
Yeah.
That's right. No, because you still have your data in application. 3.7 kilobytes, as you can see. So to clear it.
Thank you.
Yep. Cool. I already showed it to you, so let me show that. Let me close this one. Let me also create some index file, right? Index.js. And can anyone help me to add it to my index HTML? Anyone? How can add JavaScript to HTML?
You have to open up the script tags.
Yep, script. Next.
What we added exactly?
Index.js file.
Oh, you have to include the source. So
Yep.
src
equals and
then
index.js.
the path. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So now we have our console log, and hello. Let me test. Does it actually work? So we have our hello, beautiful, and now we can console log our local storage, right? Let's log it. Yep, empty. And if we do some local storage dot name, so if I refresh, we have it, right? Because we're logging. So you have an access. And if I want to log just a name, we can do just name. And you have Tom, right? Again, there is no difference if you use get item and just name. That will work as well, right? Tom and Tom. So it's not complicated. But again, I prefer just use object name because it's more native for me. It's the same with set. So if we console log, we can create actually an input, right? To provide key and value, like 2 inputs, but we'll get there. We actually can do that. Let's do that. So create a local storage. So let's have a form, and here we want to have input text, where we have placeholder key, and input where we will have value. We will have button, save, type, submit, right? Let me check what do we have here. Yeah, we have a form. Beautiful. So let me first remove everything from our application. So yeah, undefined and null. Beautiful. This is what we want. Can you actually help me? Because you already know event listeners, right? So I want to listen for, because I have 2 items, 2 inputs in my form. I want to listen for my form. When I submit my form, I want to take this value and store it into the object, into my local storage. So can you please help me to do that? You can suggest me to add some attributes, properties in HTML, whatever you think we need to handle it. So how do we want to split our work into few steps, right? So let me just do that. Steps. Step 1, what do we want to do?
Click on button.
Handle click. So again, you're right. We want to handle click, but because we are doing everything in form, we actually want to listen for submit. So, but first step, we want to select our form, right? Very basic. We want to find our form. Select, find our form. Second, we want to listen for submit, not button. Third one, so when we submit, what do we want to do? So we click submit. What do we do next?
Add the object and the key.
Sorry?
So the key and the value.
Yeah, so we want to get basically get values from inputs, right? Inputs. Okay, sounds like a plan. And now, so we got these values. What do we want to do next?
Are we trying to
Save them to the store.
show them?
Save. We want to save.
Okay, save.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
We want to save to local storage. Pretty simple, right? 4 easy steps. So let's start from the first one, right? So I want to select my form. So I will create a variable form. And how do I select normally DOM elements?
Document. Dot.
It's not interesting. I need to uninstall this plugin.
Oh.
So document.
You could disable it for now and then.
Document. Yeah, let me just. This is not fun. Disable. Oh, I can actually disable, but disable for workspace, for this particular workspace.
Yeah, okay.
Please reload Visual Studio Code to disable this extension. Let me just save, quit, run code again. Yeah. So document.
Dot get element. I don't think this element has an ID though.
No, we don't have ID.
Query selector.
Yeah, query selector. Good. Selector.
And then in quotation marks form.
Form, correct. Great. So first thing done, right? Beautiful. Second step, we want to listen. So we want to take form and we want to listen. How to do that?
Add event listener.
Yep, add event listener. Correct. And we want to listen for submit.
Yeah.
So what is the syntax now? So I have submit.
Open and closing brackets, curly brackets.
Yeah.
Then, yeah.
Yeah, so we have, you're right. That means that we have the second parameter for our add event listener function. We have a callback, right? And we are getting, for every event listener, we are getting event as a parameter automatically from that function. So that function will be called. Remember the callback, inline callbacks exercises. And Mushtaq, you asked me about how it works, and I explained to you that you don't need to worry about what's going on inside. And this is that particular case. So your callback inside this add event listener will be called, your callback will be called with parameter event. And you just need to know from documentation that it is there and you can use it. So if I remove it from here, it's still there, I'm just don't use it. But we're getting it from it will be in our callback. Okay. So we have an event, great. So we have a form basically, which is good. What do we want to do next? So we are listening for a submit. How can we get the values from it? So quick question, when we're submitting the form, what is the default behavior for the form? So if I click save, what will happen?
Send the value to the server.
Yes.
Or...
Yep, and that's correct. And that means that it will reload your page. You can see on my loader, if I click save, it blinked for a second.
Okay.
Right, and went to this URL. This is the default behavior. Wait, this. Oh, right, we stopped our server. So serve. So it blinked. Yeah, it's because when you submit in a form, it will reload your page. And trust me, this is very common question from the students that, when I'm clicking, I'm losing everything. And this is because you're actually reloading your page. And you're not running your code because you just reloaded the page. So that is why the first thing that you want to do, the very first line for your submit is event prevent default. You want to stop this default behavior.
Okay.
So this is the very first thing. And you will see that in any other's code, when you work with, like in a company, you will see that actually this is the very first line for every single submit. This is how we write code. So yeah, now if I save, if I refresh my page, let me just go to the original one, refresh, hit save, see, nothing's happened. So this is the important part, because trust me, you'll ask me that question like why I'm losing my data when I hit submit. This is because of that. Great, so we're preventing, and now we want to get values.
Could we take a peek at the index file one more time, HTML file?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we're recording the lesson, so
Oh,
we can...
the coding one. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. So, like my typical workflow is that now I want to understand what is my event. And I know, like I already know that I need to look for event.target. And let's see what we will log. So when I save, we have a form, right? So can we actually have some, can we have a value? Let me try, because I don't actually use it. Yeah, it's undefined. So we actually want to look for inputs, right? We want to look for these two inputs. How we can select them?
Or we just use class selectors and things of that nature.
Yeah, why not? Easy. Class, let's say key, right? Why not? And class value.
Oh no, we could have just used the input type selector, couldn't we?
We have both our texts, right?
Oh yeah, true.
So we need to somehow distinct them from each other. Okay, so we know that this is that event.target is our form. So let's say the key, because I want to have a key, we will look for the element inside our form. And how to look at the element, we already know that.
With for each?
No. So form is just one element. And you might be confused again. So here, what we're doing, we take an element document and looking for the element inside document. You can do the same with any element. So you can have form or event target, which is basically the same form, and look inside your form for children. So you can do the same query selector.
Oh, right.
And have look for dot key.
Key, yeah.
Right? In our case, just to be consistent, I want to use event.target. So we are hardly linked with our form, we're not actually randomly. So if somebody will modify this, we will not break something, because it will be still linked to the form, to the element we are submitting. So again, this part and here this part is just a scope where you will look.
Yeah.
So if you have, let's say, if you have div with class
divs or
kitten and have some h1, you can have so for kitten you'll have like a document query selector kitten, and you'll have your kitten element, and then you can do kitten dot query selector h1. So yeah, this is how it works. It's just a scope where you want to look. And another one is value, right? Value. Great. Again, typically what I'm doing is console log. I want to console log key and the value. Good practice also is to use something like key, almost. Key and value. So you'll see that what value do you have and what key do you have. So let me submit. Right. We have whole inputs, right? We don't have value. And this is because we forgot about value. Because input has an attribute value. So when you select an input, hit again, empty, right? Because it's empty. So if I set, let's say, I don't know, name, Tom, hit submit, we have name and we have Tom. Beautiful. This is what we want. So that means that sometimes we might see that it can be empty. How do you want to prevent, say, creating a new local storage property if it's empty? How you normally do that? It's not a tricky question, by the way.
Are you talking about the default values?
So if this empty, we don't want to create a new property. If these two falsy, so how do you normally do that? Not a tricky question. I just want to emphasize.
I guess you'll check the placeholder or the value of the.
So we already have them.
Yeah.
And how do you do that? So I want to know.
With the if statement.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is what I'm saying. This is not a tricky question. I'm just very trivial one. So if
key equals empty string.
So not equals, right?
Yeah.
And value not equals empty string. This is correct. That will work. But what I saw that many of you write in similar things or like not equal, undefined. It depends on your case. I saw it many times. But you actually here in the if, it will check if it's not specifically for a particular value, like not equal 5 or not equal some specific thing. It will check for trucy or falsy. So you can do just this.
Okay.
So if it's not true or just trucy, if these two are trucy, so you have some value, you want to create a local storage.
Yeah.
So you don't need this comparison with undefined or equals false unless you want to have specific comparison with false. Otherwise, if it's falsy, it will fail. So local storage, so how dynamically I want to set a key. You know that.
We're trying to set the items, right?
Sorry?
We're trying to set the keys and the values.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. But how do we want to, so local storage, and we want to have the particular key, right? Can we do key or no? So if you do this, will it work?
Yeah, why not? I think.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe. Yeah, I think so.
Okay, everybody forgot about dynamic keys. Okay, let me show you what we will get. So here, if I have like, so do we have anything? Local storage? Yeah, nothing, right? Nothing, empty. So if I have name and I have Tom, save, and local storage, we have key Tom, right?
Oh, would we have the square brackets?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
So now it's dynamic. So it takes the value of the key as a property, as a key name or a property name. Is it clear for everyone or should I explain it? Let me actually console log. Does anyone have questions about that, about this part, or you just forgot? This is also fine.
Can you explain these things one more time, just to make sure everything?
Yeah,
is
yeah,
understood?
sure, no problem. So if you want to hard code and have a key property, you just use dot key, and you will create key. It's a bad example, kitten, because it's key. So if you want to create key kitten, you'll do it like that. Just you'll create a kitten key. But if you want to make it dynamic and you have some kitten which is just some string, your kitten can be, I don't know, kitten. Let's say you have kitten equals I don't know, cat, whatever, and you want to, and that might be dynamic. You might change it somehow, and you want to make it create dynamic key. So if it's a cat, you will create a cat. If it's a bunny, it will create a bunny, right? Or maybe you have this one, bunny. It will create bunny. Then you want to have your square brackets. So it will take a value of your kitten. So it's not creating kitten, it will take a value that your kitten has.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it's very useful when you looping through, you want to create dynamically, you want to create an object, and you looping through something, so you can take a name or whatever, any property, and build a new object. So you just have a map or for each, and you're just going through and dynamically, and you had this exercise, you can revisit it as well, but you can loop through it and dynamically create keys and values. So in our case, it's just key. Okay, so let's test it. Clear, refresh. Okay, so name and Tom, right? Great, we have name with value Tom. We probably want to reset these two every time when we save. And what can we do? So we want to change value to basically empty string. So how can we do that? Anyone? So we have a value, we can redefine it. So we can do this, equals empty string. And the same for value. We can have empty string. So that will work if I have, like, again, name. So we will redefine the name to Alex. Hit enter, it's empty, right? But we have a nicer way, and I know that we have nicer way, but I don't remember the syntax. Reset form inputs on submit. There is a method to reset form. I think it may be form.reset. Yeah, form.reset. So you don't need to do this. It will reset all your forms, all your inputs. So you just do event.target.reset. Reset. That should work as well. Let's try. So name, Sam. Yeah, it is resetting. And we've added a new property, right? And we can have age 30. Yes, and now we have age with 30, right? So we have it. You dynamically, we can generate these local storage values and properties, which is great. Super simple form, and you can create some data. Beautiful. Let's go further. So see that I would suggest you to use that kind of pseudo programming, because write your steps step by step. What do you want to do? Because it shouldn't be scary. When you write these steps, okay, so I just need to select an element. I know how to select the element. And okay, I need to listen for submit. I know how to listen for submit. Because if you think about the complex thing, it's like, oh my gosh, how to do that? And that might look scary, and I know that. Because I was scared many times before. So you need to learn that, to practice such thing, just to write step by step what do you want to do. Okay. So let's go back to our slides. Any questions? No? Okay, cool. So next step is JSON.
Sorry, I
Yeah,
got one for the storage.
sure.
What's the like real life example for the local storage? So if we create a web app or website, what would we be using the local storage for?
Yeah, this is what I said before, that normally you can store some access key, right? So when you logged in to some application, you will send your credential to the server. Server will respond you with some particular key, and you will store like access key, and you will or session key, let's say, and you will store it in local storage. So when you close the tab and open your application after, I don't know, 3 minutes, you will still be able to access. You don't need to re-log in. But that means that when you land on any page of this application, you will send a query to the server with this key, and server will check, okay, this key is valid, and send you like a response that you are allowed to land to that page and open this page. For example, if you send a key and it's not valid, you'll get a response, like a response that you can't be on this page. It will automatically, your JavaScript, handle that and automatically log you out. Yeah?
So just for the security, yeah?
I mean, if you think, like, if you Google for that, why we use local storage. Sometimes you have a complex application. For example, in my case, we had a lot of complex. We had a lot of complex components, and we need to store, like, save in a memory the scroll position, and the one of the solutions was to keep it in a local storage. So if you unmount and mount components, you still want to keep the scroll. Let's say you open the table, you scroll like a bit down, you close the table, do something else, go back to the table. When you open it, you want to take the last position and scroll there automatically. So open on that last position. And when you close it, you basically removing this code from the DOM, and you're not able to save it anywhere. That is why the local storage might be useful for such thing.
Cool, thank you.
So it's the way where you somehow can store some data temporarily. Yeah. Okay, examples of site where, meh. Yeah, so you can Google, but it's about your need and understanding, okay, I need to store something temporarily and this is it. And you just need to clear your local storage after that when you leave your application or just close or whatever. Any other questions? No? Okay. So JSON. So JSON is JavaScript object notation. It's just a text. It's not just a regular object. And it can be parsed. So you have an object, and when you convert it to JSON, it will be a huge string. And you might see that in many places. When you fetch in data, it's a huge string, and we will have an example here. So you have an object, just a regular object. You have a title. It's actually it is a JSON object, but it's not a JSON string. So JSON object, you always need to wrap your keys into quotes, always. This is just a their syntax. So when you see such object, you see that, okay, this is JSON object. And keys are strings, and then close into quotes. Values can be anything. It can be strings, number, booleans, functions, like arrays, objects, and null. Sorry, yeah, we have some limitation. We don't have functions. But it can be string, again, strings, numbers, booleans, arrays. So basically almost any type for the value. And this one is a JSON string. And it converts your object or JSON object or just object to the string, and that can be parsed. So when you have a backend and a front end, or like server and the UI client side, you're not sending objects between your website or application and the server. You're sending these JSON strings. So you're sending just a string that can be parsable. So you can parse data from there. And we have JavaScript methods for that. I will show you in a second, but you need to understand that you're passing just a string. So if you want to pass something and send it to the server, first you need to convert it to that JSON string. And then you receive on the server, you need to parse it, get all data and do whatever you want. And the same works in opposite direction. If you want to send something from the server, you send into the front end as a string, and on the server, on the client side, on your browser, or in your JavaScript, you just parse in this data and do whatever you want again. But it's always a string. So yeah, here, if you have a string, JSON string, you can parse it with JSON.parse. All right, so we have a variable, we have a string, and we parse in the data. And you have an object. Then that will be an object, and now you can access to your title, and that will be my first blog post in our case. So it's comparing, but that will be true. So let me show you an example. Why we are talking actually about JSON here is because your local storage doesn't know what is another type besides a string. So you always want, if you want to store any data into your local storage, you want to convert it into JSON string and then store it. So let's actually do that. Imagine, let me actually revert, because we will change some task. Imagine that we have a user form. We'll have a name, or like first name and last name. Actually, let's practice without it for a second. I'll show you the basic functionality. So const, we have a user. Let's say we have a user. User has name, Tom, and age 28. So if I console log user, we will have an object, right? So you can see that this is an object, just a regular object, right? And if you want to convert it to the string, to the JSON string, all you will do, JSON string, let's say, or maybe stringify, let's say stringify user, and we will have JSON.stringify and pass our user. So we can compare now what we'll have for stringified user. Refresh. As you can see, now it is a string. It's grayed out because it's just a string. And if we want to do user.name here and user.name here, you might guess that on the first instance we will get a value because it's just an object, But on the second one, we will get an error. Ooh. It's crazy. It shouldn't work. I mean, it definitely not.
You didn't clear the last one, it would maybe.
Oh, sorry. That, yeah, my bad. I saw that the browser goes just wild and try to handle everything for you. Yeah, it's undefined. Whew. Yeah, so it's undefined because it's just a string. You can't parse it from the string, right? And again, now if you want to have your object again, console log, you use just json.parse and pass in your stringified user, right? Your string. Let's reload. You have your object back. So this is how it normally works. If you want to send data to the backend, you always take in your object and just stringify it. And again, when you get in something from the backend, you normally take it and JSON parse because you want to convert it back. And yeah, so let's go to our exercise actually. Let me think. Yeah, we will talk about stringify, but yeah, I already showed it how parse works. Let's talk about stringify. So I already explained that stringify is for sending data and writing to files and storing data. So you will get to the node. So you'll see the node section, and you'll see that if you want to store something into your file, you want to create a file on the server and store the data, you still need to convert it to a string, etc. You can't store in the file some objects. You need to stringify it. And yeah, so you have an object, you stringify it, you got your string, huge string. And yeah, let's go back to the object because to the code editor, because I want to show you that how we can store it. So we have a first name and we have a last name, and here we want to have first name, last name, and we want to create a user, right? Store user. Okay, let me remove this and uncomment this part. Cool. So first of all, I want to have first name, last name, and I probably want to change these two. So if the first name is true C and the last name is true C as well, I want to create a local storage user, and I want to store the object, right? I want to have name first. Oh yeah, right. We have a first. Is it? Am I? Yeah, I'm consistent. Okay. So I want to have basically first name, and last name. How I can simplify it? So how can I simplify this object? Because we have same key and same value with ES6, we can just write like this. You don't need to repeat for key and value. You can just use this, and JavaScript will understand that that should be a key, and the value is the same, will be a value of that variable. Okay. Okay, so yeah, I want to store to local storage, right? Let me try. Will it work? Tell me now.
I don't think so, because you have a comma in the last.
It doesn't matter. It's my autocomplete. Right. Yeah, no, right. No. So let's try. Let's try. So I don't know. First name Alex Smith. Save. Can you see? We have object, right? Remember, you probably already saw it when you work with your CLI app and with the use when you try to console log something, and you had this in console log. And this is because you try to store an object as a string without converting. That is why you have this problem. So you can't retrieve now the data from there. It's impossible. Now this is just a string, object. So
this is where we use the spread operator, right?
No. So in this case, it will not work because local storage, this is what I mentioned at the very beginning of the lesson, will understand only strings. And that is why we are talking about JSON stringify now.
Okay.
Yeah, because we want to store it as a string. So let's create const user. That will be our user. And now for our user, we will do JSON stringify and pass user, right? So let me refresh. Local storage is nothing. Alex Smith. Hit enter. As you can see, now we have a full string, right? Which is great, which is what we want. Now, if I want to retrieve it, let me just put console dot user. Refresh. We have a string. Great, but I want to have a values. And to do that, to parse it back, const parsed user. What you will do is use JSON dot parse and put your JSON this string into this function as a parameter. So now, if you have parsed user, refresh, you have an object, and now you can work with it again. Yeah.
So we have to first change the object into string using the stringify, the JSON, and then change it back using the parse in order for us to access the object.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, this is how you working with your, again, with servers, and when you transferring data.
Okay.
Because you can send data to the server just as a string, so you need to stringify, and when you're receiving, you get in a string, so you need to parse it. Yep. Okay, great. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I have one actually. I think I missed because I stepped up for a quick second. Why are we using the event.target.reset just after the local storage?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're resetting inputs.
Oh, right. Okay, cool. So literally just clear a placeholder.
Yeah. So if you have like Alex Smith and hit save, it's here. But I want to reset because I maybe want to provide a new data.
Yeah.
So I want to just reset. So now if I have Alex Smith, hit enter, it's empty.
Good.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. And actually I hit enter. Let me check. Hit enter. I still focus on this one. I probably want to lose the focus, but we will talk about that later, how we can manipulate it. So, okay. If you have no other questions, we will move to our to-do list app. And we will store our to-dos in local storage. So let's start from the very beginning. Sorry? No? Yeah, let's start from the very beginning and let's create a new task. So let me just remove all of that. We want to create an input. Let's say here that will be to-do app. And we have our input, which is, yeah, let's say just to do to do. Okay, so very simple form. Yep. Save, and we want to render a list of our to-dos from the local storage. So let me just clear again our application. So we have nothing in. Right, so now you can see that parse doesn't work because, oh, I haven't saved. Great. So here we have nothing. Local storage is empty. So let's actually create a functionality to create a want to do thing. Okay, so first stop, again, as usual, we want to select our form. And that will be document query selector, and this is form. So now we have our form dot add event listener, submit. This is what we had. Probably I can save time on just leave it event, and we have const value value that should be event dot target query selector again, and input and value, right? So we have a value. Let's console look value and refresh. So I know test, right? Again, what do we forgot?
Prevent default.
Thank you. Yeah. So not, oh. So let's try again. Yep. Now it is working. We just want to reset it, right? Reset our input. So our event dot target dot reset. Reset. Great. So let's try. Test. Yep. Awesome. So we are handling the collection of the data. Now we want to create a new to-do for that, right? So we have a value and we want to create an element for the DOM and append it to the DOM. So let's actually do that. So we can create an element here and write like, I don't know, how to create an element. So we probably want to have a UL, right? Let's have it UL with class list. We can create it with JavaScript, but to simplify it, we have it here. So I will say const list, yeah, just list element. So this is what we normally write, list L, and people know that this is about element. Document query selector. And we have, is it a list? My short memory, yes, it is a list. Cancel. Great. So we have a list element. I want to create a lie and append it to the DOM. How can I do that? So li. What should I do? How we can create a document, element, sorry. Come on, you did
Select
it.
the list items. So document dot query selector li.
But it doesn't exist. We want to create an element.
Oh, create.
Yes, I think the create element.
Yeah, so how to do
If
that?
I'm-
We have a whole class of smart people. Come on, don't be shy. So
maybe AJ can help.
document.
Dot create element.
Create element.
Yeah, then we have the li in the
Yeah.
parentheses.
See? This is what I said. Smart people. Is it AJ blaming you now? But I need to read it, sorry. Yeah, this is what I thought. Okay, yeah, we've just created an element. So now we want to set a value as a text for this li. So what do we need to do? So we have our li.
Li dot inner text
Yep, correct.
equals the value.
Yep, absolutely correct. Yep, so now you're creating a li with a text, and now I want to append it to the DOM.
Document dot body
To my list, not just to the
to
DOM.
list. Okay. So list L equals dot append.
Yeah, so we have actually two things. Yeah, you can have
Okay.
append child
Mm-hmm.
and have your li, that will work.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can have list element inner HTML plus equals, so you will add it, right?
Yeah.
That will work as well, it doesn't matter. Yeah, that should work. It might, let me try it actually. We should add both, twice, sorry. Let's try it. Test. Yeah, see, this is a problem because we generated
Okay.
an element, so we can't
Mm-hmm.
use inner HTML. When
Okay.
you create your li with something like const test equals
Mm-hmm.
p like this and have your value, you also can do that. So you can do this, right? Basically you have two options. First, to create your element, and this is a correct option. Then you set the value inner text and then you append, or you can create with syntax like that. Then you set inner just add into inner HTML.
Yeah, first we went there.
Yeah, both will work. Just to prove it, refresh, test. Yeah. Oh, yeah, right. I forgot not P. Li. My bad, my bad. Yeah. Great. Yeah, I will stick with the first one. And again, like a good practice is to not write all your code in one place. So I want to outsource this to separate function, and I'll call it something like const create li element. And I will accept value, right? Because I want to have a value. I will generate it here, and I don't want to append it here. I just want to return. Again, this is just I will just create an element, a li element. So this is what I'm doing. And here, I can have something like list element, and I can do this and pass my value, but it is ugly, right? Const, I will create a li element equals this one. This one looks nicer. So I have a separate function that I can reuse if I need it. Okay. So let me test it. Yeah, we have it. The another thing that we forgot is that we want to have a state true and false for each li, right? Besides the text, we want to see the like a checkbox that it can be completed or not uncompleted. So we don't want to have just a li. We also want to add a checkbox. So actually, in this case, it might be better to use the first option because it will be more readable for us. But again, it doesn't make a difference. So we can do something like li dot inner HTML plus equals checkbox. Sorry?
Oh, I thought it was going to be an input type.
Yeah, sorry, input, yeah, you're right. Input, and that should be checkbox. Checkbox. And yes, yeah, let's start from this one. So we are adding input. Refresh, test. Yeah, we have an input, right? Great. For each element, for each li, I actually want to have some identifier, because it would be nice to have the identifier for each li. And that might be, let me think, what is a smart way to do that? Because we can use like a length of array, but that means that if you remove the first one, so we have like 3 items, 1, 2, 3 IDs will be 1, 2, 3. And if I remove the first one, we will have 2 and 3. And if I add another one, it will be 3 again. So we will get duplicates. And we can combine value and the position, maybe to reduce. Normally people use libraries like unique IDs. Unique ID. We can actually use it, why not? Unique ID, npm, UID. I think it's UUID maybe. Yeah, it's this one pretty popular. So it will, every time you call it, you'll generate a random unique ID, which is helpful. We can do this probably, but not for now. Not for now. We'll keep it simple, and we might actually check the position of the element, maybe, of the li. Yeah, let's keep it simple. Okay. So we have an input, we have a li, we can create an element. I think this is good. So test 2, hit enter, we have another one. Beautiful. So the next step, I want to handle actually the check state. And I've to prove you that it is working. So first of all, we don't have any value for that, right? So we set in a value, but we're not creating any object, and it's not something complex. So we need to manage this like a checked true or false, right? So I would say that every time we want to, first of all, we want to create an like to-dos, and that should be an array, and that should be an array of objects, right? So here, this is not the one right solution. It's just how I will approach it. So you can approach it in a completely different way, but this is what like my way of doing this thing. So I have a list of to-dos. Here I have my value, and const. I want to create a new to-do, const new to-do, and that will be our value, and that will be completed false by default, right? Because when you create a new one, you have a falsy one. And now you just have to-dos dot push, and you push in your new to-do. And what I want to do is, so here I'm doing like every time I'm appending, but on initial load, I want to loop through them. I want to have a for each. So I have to-dos for each, and for each to-do, I want to call my create li, right? With the value. To-do dot value. Or just with to-do, just with specific to-do, right? So, and again, I can't use it here because create li element is after. So I want to do it after this function at least. But I would suggest you to keep it in the end, So that will be clear for you. So you pass in to do, this is the whole object. So now for our value, we are receiving to do, where we have value and completed. So what I want to do is to destructure it and have value and completed. So now value is a value, and here this one should be check, right? Checked equals and completed, right? Checked. So if it's completed, that should be true. So checked. I think that should be it. Let me actually test it. So by default, we have nothing. If we refresh, we have nothing. But let me create some dummy one. Value, shopping, and completed true, right? And maybe let me create another one. So not shopping, reading, false. Great. We don't call this one for some reason. Oh, right, because it's just creating. So we're creating elements, but we're not setting it. So that might be, so we want to actually wrap it properly. So we have const ULI, and here we want to append to our UL list, right? We forgot about that. So dot append child ULI, something like that. So let me try again. Yeah, beautiful. Ooh, did I forgot something? Let me check that. This is odd because we want to have, ooh, look at this. Why we have a /? Right, because we want to have a quotes around. Again, see that these tiny bits causing bugs, and because I don't have a quotes, it reads as a one thing, and the browser tries to guess, but it guessed in a wrong way. So let me save again, refresh. We still have the same problem, but let me check. So checked true, checked false. Is it checked or check? Checkbox.
I think it's checked.
Value, where's it? Checked. HTML. Yeah, I think it should be checked. Right. It might be if it no, but it still treats Boolean. Input checkbox checked property. Checked true or false. But we can definitely pass. Yeah, it's true or false, so we have checked. Right? Is it spellings or something? No, it definitely not, because it's actually checking. Is it because it treats this as a string? Let me check that. This is really odd. Unclick my function, checked. Let me, do they have actual example? Update my function, thanks, check true. Yeah. It's not what we want. Set checked. JS. Come on, same link. Got to be kidding. Yeah, they set in this in a different way. It should be HTML. Let me check HTML. I kind of feel that if it has an attribute, it shouldn't be like that, but if it has an attribute checked, then it renders. If it's not, then it's not. So the quick solution, without wasting our time, is just do this. So you have your complete, and conditionally you will render this string, right? So you will if this completed, then you will render this checked. If it's not, you will never render it. Let me try. Yes, it is working. Does it make sense? So if it's true, we render it. In our case, checked. Oh, we have a false. This is because here of this condition. So we want to have if else, an empty string. So now we have checked and we have nothing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the operator that you just used as well?
This is ternary operators.
Oh.
So if, basically this is if, this is else.
Okay, got you.
Yeah, it's very nice to use it in line because it's much shorter. You don't need to write your if else.
Yeah.
Okay, so we dynamically can generate our to-dos. Let me remove, because maybe not. Why not? So test undefined, very helpful. This is because we need to update our new to-do. Why it's actually, yeah, right. Create an ally. Punch out, give me a second. So what's going wrong? Have a lie, and why the value is undefined. Value, their text. Why it's undefined? Why it's undefined? New to do. New to do is an object. Oh, right, because we have this. Sorry, we don't want to do this. We're just pushing, and then we want to, again, this one, we probably want to wrap it into the function because we want to, or maybe not. Maybe you just want to push it as it was. Sorry, yeah, I don't want to confuse you with this. So we create an element. So we push to new to-dos. Yeah, we create an element with new to-do, and now we are appending it. Yeah, I think this is it. Great. Let me refresh. Test. Yes, right? Because this is false by default. So now I want to manage my complete and undo and undo. So let me listen for, again, this becomes very messy. I don't like it. I would say that we still do we want to re-render everything? Because here it grows, which is not very nice, and we want to have a listener for our inputs for the form. So when you listen for the actually no, we want to listen our list, right? And when we click, and this is a checkbox, so the next step, sorry, listen for checkbox clicks. So now I want to listen for my list. Add event listener, and this one should be click, right? We just want to listen click. And here we have event, almost event, and here we want to find if the event dot target name, target dot tag name, is it a tag name? I think it's tag name. Let me just console log, because you never know. When you click, li, click input. Beautiful. Yeah, so if this equals input, see that it is capitals. So we want to compare this one, and if it's here, if it's input, right, we want to we want to basically modify it and update our to do here in the list. So let me try to do that. We have an input. Now we want to change checked to opposite value, right? So we want to dot target. Let's first, we want to modify UI. So you can have checked equals to what? How I can set opposite value?
To false, right? Let me say to true, right? If it's
yeah, to true,
true,
that will
so
be
it's false,
opposite.
and if
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
false.
exactly. So I want to have an opposite. It's like a logic exercise. So you want to take like a hint. You want to take the current value and set to opposite.
We can use not operator.
Yeah.
Or
yeah. So you can exclamation mark current value. Right?
yeah.
So let me check that. Okay, so we modifying on a UI. Let me actually, because maybe we don't even need to do. Oh yeah, so this is falsy. Input. Look at this. We can't change it. Yeah, because we're not modifying the original object. Because we rendered that. Target checked. Let me think. Give me a second. Is it checked, right? JavaScript. I'm pretty sure this is what we had. Yeah, checked. Put that one by the checkbox. Checked. And yeah, that should be it. Right, because we set checked, but why we can't redefine it? This is odd. Okay, does it actually work? Let me console log. So see, this is a bug. Click. So I'm console logging inside my input. Let me see. Yeah, I'm actually clicking. Okay. Event.target. Yeah, let me console log my event.target before and event.target after. True, false. So it was true before. This is really odd because that should be false, right? And for the first one, it's false. Does it make sense? Does it? This is really odd. Let me actually see what's going on. But eventually we are toggling it. We do not re-render the element, which is surprising. It is weird. False. Why do we have false? Oh yeah, checked. False, false, false. Because we're not modifying. Okay. Okay, let me think why it's not happening. So let me, so the initial idea actually, because now I'm thinking, okay, maybe we need to re-render it, but it shouldn't be checked. Render target, this is what we have, this is our input, and here, this is the input, right? Yeah. Is it equal or, I don't remember, it should be equal, right? Checked equals true. Yeah. Give me a second. So if you have document, query select, query selector, input with type checkbox, right? So we selected this one, dot checked. It is true. Great. Equals false. Can you explain me the magic? So it is working here, but it's not working here. Let me see the.
Is it possible to be from prevent default or reset functions?
No, in this case, no, because so prevent default is more for submit, and we listening for the list item, lists, and we not actually, we don't have any default behavior for this one. Yeah, this is input, and we modify the input. This is funny because here it is working. So if you have this, if you have this, it is working. And click. Oh, somebody wants to join. What was that? Yeah, give me a second. Give me a second. That kind of box, this is my favorite. Because you have a target, which is your input, which is great, so you have checked. And you actually can see that it is true, right? Let me refresh again. So click, it is true, it is checked. Ooh, when target, it should be, when you click, might takes a reference, it keeps the reference, so it is false. You can, yeah, this is just a magic, because it says that it is false, but it is true when I try to get checked. Okay, I mean, we can theoretically, we can create another element. Let's do this in this way, const input to not stock, and we will create document, create element input, and input dot type will be checkbox, and input dot checked equals false, right? Let me try to do it this way. Right, it would be nice to add it to, so it's not so now with li it just append child, something like that. Let's try. Yeah, so it is true. Still have the same problem. This is odd. Okay, so when we click pum, 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 pum. Theoretically, we might not want to hard code, but is that complete? It is complete, it's not false. So what's going on? If you have when the target checked, this is what we have, equals, let's say false, just hard code, just to test it. Yeah, so now it is working. So the hard code is working. So it doesn't like event.target.checked, right? This is odd. Why it's not setting the opposite value? I'm wondering if I set, it shouldn't be, because it's not an object, so it shouldn't keep the reference. But maybe it is. Checked equals this, and here you want to have this is just ridiculous. This is just a value, so it should be fine. So why it, so when you click, it won't select the opposite value. Okay, just wondering, console log. Am I just missing something? Something stupid. True, false? No. So what's wrong? Any ideas why it might not work? On target.
We might have some idea if it gives us 48 hours.
Sorry, it was.
I was just saying we might have a more better ideas if you give us 48 hours.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, no problem. I can wait. Yeah, theoretically we can do something like very manually. Just and checked, right? So if it checked, then we select false, and another if it's input, or we might have something just a nested input, like just a nested if. Else to false, to true, sorry. Right, so if it's true, then it's false, else, so if it's false, then it's true. Let me test it. What's going on? Is it something opposite?
I think we have to
Yeah.
put separate event listeners for checked and unchecked.
No. So, yeah, look at this. So if it checked, this is really odd, because look at this. If it checked, console log, so if I click, I'm falling to, so it's not actually checked, it is false. So why it is false? Refresh. It is false on the initially, which is, it just doesn't make sense. Because if I select this one, it says it's true. it is true. Checked. Here, oh, wait a sec. We don't have this property here. That's interesting. Let me actually revert what I did. I'm missing something very tiny and stupid. That's for sure. So if I put my code as I had before, so we have just input checkbox and checked. And here, but we have the same, right? I just want to see if it's input console log. Let me just refresh. So here we have checked. Click. It was false, now it's true. Why it's opposite? This is odd. Anyway, we cannot control this one. Maybe it's because we're hard coding. Like on initial load that will work, but nah, still no. It's just odd. It's just really odd.
Is it something to do with what was that? The condition?
No, we just checking for input.
Ternary operator, other way around.
Oh no. So checked. So if it's completed, it is true. So it should be checked, which is correct. And right, so completed. If it's false, let me just console log. Maybe I'm just no, but we're rendering this in the correct way. So completed is true. So the initial one is true, right? If you hit, now it is full. Okay, is it? Are we getting the value is too? The value we're getting is too late, because now it's false, right? So result. Yes, maybe. So when we click, we actually modifying already. That is why we want one step behind. And we, on that stage, right, maybe you were right actually about event prevent default, because that might be, because when we click it, we changing the value, but we still have the old value here. That is why we're not actually basically changing. Let me check that. Maybe you're right.
Yes, actually, I read it in Stack Overflow.
Yeah.
A bit.
Okay. Yep. So when I click, let me check this. So it's not actual. So prevent default, it shouldn't change, right? Yeah, still doesn't work. So what Stack Overflow says? This is really crazy.
Stack Overflow, it says that we cannot prevent default, cannot be used when we have radio buttons or checkboxes.
So it doesn't
making. We have to put event listener for each one separately, something like that.
Okay, it's like checked. Is it check status?
I'll send you the link.
On change, thank you. So first of all, that should be on change. Probably that is why. So it's not click, it should be on change because this is inputs. This is just me, and I completely forgot about that. Yes. So let me just on change. So change. Now that should work, I think. but give me a second. On change will work for input and not for. So when you click, I see what you mean. So we want to add listener for every single checkbox. Got you.
Yes.
Yeah.
For each.
Yeah.
When it's checked and when it's unchecked.
Yeah. I know what you mean now. So that means that we want to have like a for each, and we want to have a listener for each checkbox. But I just want to have a shortcut. So what we can do, what we can do is not modify this one because we don't need it for the UI. So if you do nothing, it will work from the UI side, and we will get console. Where was it? Checked. Click. Console log. Ooh, it's a bit late. But yeah, so click. Now it's false. Now it's true. So we don't need to listen and change it directly. This input. It will be handled by your browser. So you just you're right. So if you want to listen for on change, we want to apply for each, but in our case we don't need to do that. I don't know why I started all of that story. So all you want to do is actually find the position of the element, right? So you want to again, see that this is a problem, that we want to have some identifier for our checkbox, to have some ID, so we can tweak the li, to find the li, and to have the position basically. So maybe we want to have let me check. I'm just thinking if we have, no, because the value can be repeated. Again, I'm just thinking the nice way to select this one if it's checked or not checked. So when you click this, I can style the parent. This is fine. But I want to modify it in our kind of database, right? So we want to modify this one and understand that, okay, this is the third element or fourth element. And we might, let me think. So event target. So if it's input, we might want to add something as some specific selector. Let's use some data ID, and I don't know. Yeah, right. Smart solution. We will create let counter, right, equals, and that counter will look for last li ID. Yes. This is what we want. So let's start from 0 first. We will fix this bug later. So counter, every time when you create a new li, you want to have a counter. So by default it's empty. And here you will have data ID equals counter plus plus, because you want to modify this counter every time. So you'll start from 0, then you will increment it, and you will get 1 on the next step. So let's test it. So we have no elements. Test, save, lie. We have data ID, right? Beautiful. So we have 0, and this is our index. This is what we want. So now if we select in this one, what do we want to retrieve is const index equals event dot target dot data set dot id, and we want to parse int because this is just a number. It should be a number, but it is a string now. Parse int, and we have an index. So let's test it. Console log index. Fresh test. Go to console. Yep. If we add test2, we have 1, 0, 1. Yep, it is working. So now we can update, actually we can modify actually the object. So to-dos, we want to modify our to-do, and here we have an index, which is index, and we want to modify it with a new value where we'll have, we want to spread the old one, right? Because we want to take the old value, or we can do something like to do, so value to do dot value, and we want to have completed should be event target checked. Yep, does it make sense? And if we want to console, let every time we want to console our to-dos, console log to-dos. Yeah, that should work. So test, hit enter, test2, enter. So now if I hit, we have an array. This is true, this is false. If I take it the second time, we should have both false. Yeah, so now it is working. Woohoo, finally. Okay, so we have event listener for our click, and we know this data from our to-dos. The only thing that I want to do what I want to add is storing. We forgot about delete button, but what I want to do is to store data in our local storage. So every time I create a new to-do, I want to reset my to-dos in the local storage. So it will persist. This is the last trick that I will show you. So what do we have is local storage dot to-dos equals, and we use JSON stringify, right? And pass our to-dos, right? This is what we do. And initially, here, we don't want to have an empty array. We want to retrieve from our local storage to-dos. But on the very beginning, it will be just empty, right? It will be empty because it might be even like a false value, undefined. So we might fail. So I will show you. See, this is a problem, because it's undefined. So what we want to do is, if this exists, if it doesn't exist, if it exists, we want to have it, or empty array. So if it's falsy, then we will get empty array, right? So let's try it. But wait a sec, not like this actually, because that is undefined. But if we get a string, because we want to parse it. So actually what we want is JSON.parse this one, else we want to have an empty array, right? I think that should work. So let's test it. Test, save, and like test2, save. Let's check local storage. We have 2 values, which is great. So if I change and local storage, now we still have false. Right, because why? because we're not updating our to-dos here, right? So when you click, you're modifying, but you're not actually updating it in local storage. So this is, again, you need to do it twice, here and there. Let's try again. So local storage. So if I refresh, I have them. They are persisting, right? Because we already have them in local storage. But false and false. If I click this one and go to local storage, I have true now, right? And if I refresh, it's still persisting. Yeah, looks good for me. Another thing is that we want to add like a delete button. Again, we can do the same for here. We can just add input type button and value should be delete, save, refresh. We have delete now. So when we hit delete, again, we want to know this data ID, this one basically. But in this case, if we do this, so let me just make it nicer because it looks really ugly and unreadable. So we have two inputs, right? Checkbox and button. If you do like this, we will increment our counter again, right? Again and again. So what we actually want to, we can do this, but you can accidentally forget and mess with these numbers. So we have the old one, and here after the second usage, you will increment it. Or just to make it more resilient, you want to do this here. Plus equals 1. Yeah, so every time when you create a new one. So let me clear my application. Refresh, it's empty. No errors. Test, save, refresh. Yeah, we have it. So what should I do on delete? It's like plus 5 minutes and we are done. So here we have input. So now basically when we click this one, we have two inputs, right? So we might want to change the button. And we want to remove this. And that shouldn't be, because we don't want to mess it. Again, we have a lot of ways to do this, but we just look for, we just do it in one way now. So delete. That should work as well. Yeah. So if the type is button, right? We want to do another thing. We basically want to do the same. We want to, let me just remove this console. We want to do we want to get the index. Then we want to remove this. How to remove from the array? So we have to do. What do we need to do? Sorry?
You slice or splice?
Splice.
Pop.
No, the pop will remove the last one, or we want to splice, and here we have
great.
We have index, and we have 1, right? So we want to remove 1 item. Okay, and when we remove that, again we want to call our local storage with a new to-dos. So let's test it. So we have 1 in local storage, right? So we have test 2, test 3, test 5. Yeah, okay. So in local storage, we have 5 items, right? 1, 2, 3, sorry. test. Let me check that. 1, 2, 3. So we have 4 elements, right? My math is bad. 1, 2, 3. Am I blind? Is it just 3?
No, it's 4. You just skipped 4. You just had 5 instead of 4.
Oh, right. So I haven't.
Yeah.
No, wait a sec. So test 1. Test 2. Test 3. Test 5. What's going on?
Yeah, you just
yeah, 4.
typed 5
4.
instead of 4.
Yeah, beautiful. 4. Sorry. Yeah. So we have 4 elements. If I click delete, right? So first of all, let's check third one, and we have our completed true. And maybe we want to delete the, I don't know, this one, delete. We haven't re-rendered our DOM, but I think because we need to re-render our DOM, but you don't have it here, and if I refresh, it will be removed. So what you want to do is maybe still outsource it to the function const render to-dos list, and here you want to do your for each, but on the very beginning. So the problem will be whoa, right, we're not calling this function, sorry, my bad. So if I refresh, we have it, but if I use this function here, when we delete it, what we will have, what problem we will get? Any ideas? So if I'll show you that we call this render, which will append all to-dos into the DOM, and we will call it here as well when we did remove one element. So what problem we will have?
It might bring back the test 3.
It will actually bring back, it will clone these two.
Alright.
Let me check. So when I clicked render to-do list, did we actually, let me refresh, test 3. So now if I delete, see, we have more, delete, more, right? So what do we actually want to do is here, before you render, this one should be inner HTML empty, right? So you want, every time you render a list, you want to reset the list element. So we have to test 5, test 6, just test. So when I click delete, beautiful. Did I refresh? Kind of feel like I'm not doing refresh. Yeah, looks like we're not resetting. Again, something very silly to do. So you call this. Oh, right. Sorry, not to do's. List element, right? So list element inner HTML should be empty. So test. So when I delete, yeah. Here we have some problems with IDs because we already cloned these IDs. So to fix this bug, local storage, we don't have any IDs here. And here we have button 1, 1, 2, Oh, wait a sec. It's actually, numbers are correct. I hit refresh and delete. Okay, it is working. So when I hit delete again, it doesn't work. Interesting. Yeah, right. Data ID 9, 8, and 7. Why is that? Right, because I know why. Because we're doing this here, right? So you need to find a way, you can store this in local storage, this counter, and every time you reload, you refetch this last index. Yeah. So every time you delete, it will refetch, and you might have an ID. So each object should has not just value and completed, but ID. This is what you normally have in database. And here you will have your counter, right? And then you will yeah, so you basically want to have not counter but dot counter, and here where you created one, you have your ID and you have your counter, right? And every time you're doing this, you can just do this, and when you're pushing, you're removing from here and just have a counter as a local variable. So let's try again. Let me remove our data, refresh. So test 1, test 2, test 3. Okay, so let's see. We have, yeah, we probably want to, for counter, I forgot again. For counter, we don't want to have 0. We want to check, is it true C? We want to check the last to do, so parse, basically this, or just no, like this one. So if you have to-dos, we want to have to-dos and take the ID of the last one, right? So that should be to-dos dot lengths -1. Otherwise, we want to have 0. Yep. And that should be lengths as well, because empty array is also valid. So if we have some records, we want to take the record, the last record ID. Otherwise, we set 0. So let's remove and test it again. Test 1, test 2, test 3, 4, test 5. Great. So now, if you see, beautiful, we have undefined. What did I? So we have a counter. So ID. Let me check local storage. Yeah, we have IDs, so it's just a render. When I call new to do, create a line. Sorry, ID. Click, that should be ID. And here we have splice. We have to do not counter but ID, right? My bad. We don't have counter, we have IDs. Refresh. Let's go here. Yeah, now we have 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4, right? So if we delete, now it is working. And if we create a new one, so the last one, you can see that has ID 2. So the next one should be ID 3. So test new, not a number. And this is because it is a string. So we're doing incrementing. Again, counter comes from to use. Give me a second. Right, this is an object. Yeah. We want to take ID. That might be my bad. Yeah. So let me delete. Sorry. So if I refresh, we don't have any. Test. Let me check. So we have 0, 1, 2, 3. Refresh, still the same. If I delete, okay, if I test, and then check on this one, yeah, we have ID 3. Right. Another bug, right? So we want to actually increment it before we've set in it. So we can do this, right? So before we incrementing, because now we are taking 3 and just using 3. So we have duplicates. So let me refresh. That is the last bug, trust me. So we have test. So this is the 5th one. I remove 1 and create another one. And you can see this is 6 after 5, because now we're taking the last one and incrementing before we set in a new one. So now it is working. Whew. That was a long lesson. Okay, any questions?